Good morning, everyone. I just want to check and make sure that we can be heard in the Zoom webinar. Jake, are you able to hear us? Or Jim?
I can hear you.
Great, terrific. Madam Chair, we will be able to begin on time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Lake County Planning Commission hearing for December 15th, 2022. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I do believe we have Jim via Zoom for our verification of legal notice.
And legal notice has been determined on each matter.
Thank you, Jim. Moving on to our consent agenda and approval of the consent agenda. Consideration agenda item that are just typically items that are blanketed or boilerplated in, things that we just have to revisit, and they're the same for every meeting. So the first item is consideration of adoption of Assembly Bill 361, findings authorizing teleconference meeting during a state of emergency, as well as approval of the November 17th, 2022 Planning Commission minutes.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Hess.
I move that we accept the consent agenda items 4A and B on block.
Okay.
A second.
Motion and a second. Can we get a roll call vote, Jim?
Sure. Commissioner Hess.
Aye.
Commissioner Chavez.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown.
He's absent?
Commissioner Field.
Yes.
Chair Price.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will take up citizens' input. This is an opportunity for anyone wishing to speak on anything that is not on the agenda. Is there any hands in the Zoom room?
Is it Jake?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's Jake or Jim. Just to verify, I just don't want to miss out on anybody wanting the opportunity to speak.
I don't have it. I don't see any hands in the Zoom room.
Thank you, Jim. I will close citizens' input for this meeting, and we will take up our first timed item at 9:05. I'm showing a time now of 9:05. We will begin with our first item on the agenda. Say public hearing in consideration of request for a 20-year extension of use permit UPM 20-21. Applicant is Clear Lake Lava Mine. Project location 13329, 13455, 13433, and 13601 Point Lakeview Road and 8980 Highway 29, Lower Lake. Parcel numbers, 012-066-02-03 and -012 and 71010-007-49. Good morning, Eric.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, people in the audience. This is an extension for an existing mine. The mine was established in the 1980s and was reconfirmed through use permit 0006 in year 2000. The extension would carry forth to the original expiration date, which was 2020. However, by virtue of the fact that they applied for this extension in a timely manner, it carried the project forward to this point in time. So the extension would actually go back to the year 2020, and it should reflect that and show 2040 as being the expiration date on it. At that time, if they're still not done excavating, then they would have to come back in and do another extension. So the chair indicated the location, the project. Like I said, it is an existing mine. It's on Point Lakeview Road. The property itself is fairly large. It's about 728 acres combined. And here's an aerial photo of the existing mine. This does not involve an expansion. There was some discussion that they may need to expand in the future, but that is not on the docket for today's meeting. The zoning is rural land, scenic combining, and ag. Rural land and ag allow mineral extraction as a permitted use subject to a major use permit, and this is under an existing major use permit. So the general plan categorizations are rural lands and agriculture. The Lower Lake Area Plan doesn't have anything specific to extraction. However, the zoning ordinance does. It's in Table B of Article 27. Aggregate Resource Management Plan conformance. We found that the mine did conform to the Aggregate Resource Management Plan. And Surface Mining and Reclamation Act applies to this project. Zoning ordinance I touched on briefly. Excavation of a sand and gravel pond is permitted in the RL rural lands and A ag zone with a major use permit. California Environmental Quality Act was applied in year 2000. Extensions are not considered projects with regards to CEQA. Therefore, no environmental evaluation was undertaken, nor was one needed for the extension. The tribe had expressed some concerns about the project. We had a consultation with the tribe back in August, I believe, and the mine owner's representative, Richard Knoll, and two members of the Upper Lake Habiminal tribe met in our conference room. We discussed their concerns, and the concerns primarily had to do with expansion. It had to do with training to make sure that the employees at the mine were adequately trained in case they inadvertently unearthed any artifacts or relics or anything of traditional value to the tribes. The tribe did a site visit. They went out, they trained the staff, and they were unable to come to an agreement regarding a written tribal agreement for tribal monitoring. However, since they're not expanding, they're in the footprint of the originally approved mine. And so we concluded consultation. We sent a letter to the tribe last week indicating that there was nothing further to be discussed on it unless and until they expand. And so currently the crew of the mine is trained, but there is no tribal agreement for a tribal monitor to be present on site. Having said that, our recommendation is to approve the 20-year extension for UPM 20-01. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions for staff? No? We will open it up for public comment. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this agenda item? Okay. Jim, just to ask, is there any hands in the Zoom room?
I do not see any hands in the Zoom room.
Thank you. I will,
Oh,
go ahead. Hi.
excuse me. Carlos Torres, County Council.
Good morning.
Morning. Everything looks solid. Mr. Porter's absolutely correct on the extension. The only concern I have is the usage of the term tribal consultation. That's it is a formal term used when CEQA is enacted or is triggered. So you can meet with tribal representatives, but when you call it a consultation, that actually, it means something very specific. And since that's not actually necessary in this context, if possible, we could strike the tribal consultation from the report, the staff report. That would probably be more correct.
Thank you. We will take note of that. Okay. I don't believe they are here. Are you? We have public comment open on a agenda item. Are you here to speak on maybe a extension?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
An extension for the mine?
Yes, for Clear Lake Lava.
Right?
Yes, okay. Well, while public comment is open, you're welcome to approach the podium. Please be sure to state your first and last name, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone.
morning.
My name is Jonathan Costillas.
Closer to the mic, please.
I'm a tribal cultural monitor for the Hub Pomo of Upper Lake. I'm just here. We are with the project. We agree with them. We went on a site visit about 2 months back. We do have no concerns with their current APE, but they also stated that they would be in that same APE for about 8 to 10 years, but the extension's for 20 years. So if they do plan on extending that, we do have concerns. There are sites within about less than a quarter mile. So we're not concerned with the project as the current AP is today, but if they extend out, we do have concerns. We just wanted to put that into public comment.
Excellent. And as staff and council had mentioned that there will be a meeting of, between Clear Lake Lava, the applicant, I should say, and any type of tribal discussion and training will go. That could be discussed at a later date. But just as you mentioned, it is in the same footprint, and if there is any type of expansion based on that, then we can revisit it.
And for Clear Lake Lava, we already did the cultural sensitivity training.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate your attendance. Glad you got in right when you did. Okay. If there is anyone else wishing to speak on this item, now would be your time, or I will close public comment and bring it back for motion. Okay, we will officially close public comment and bring it back to the commission for action.
Madam Chair,
Good morning, John.
I move that the Lake County Planning Commission find that the use permit extension UPM 20-01 applied for by Clear Lake Lava on property primarily located at 13329 Point Lakeview Road, APN 010-007-49, and further described in this motion, meets the requirements of Articles 19 and 60.1C of the Lake County Zoning Ordinance, and the use permit extension UPM 20-01 be granted for a period of 20 years based on the findings listed in the staff report dated December 15, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in,
Could I ask for clarification on the date? Would that be from the date of the original expiration?
of 2020?
Yeah, so that would go until 2040?
That's my understanding from report.
Isn't that what's indicated in the staff report, that we should, the number goes back to 2020?
I don't remember if it is or not. If it is, then we're covered. If it isn't, then it should be stated for the record.
I do believe it was mentioned on the first page of the staff report.
I read
And then-
I read that the same way,
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. And just to be clear, it will be the original date of February 3rd, 2020 with an expiration date of 2040. And we
Thank you.
do, not a problem. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7 calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission's decision, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the the Planning Commission's final determination. Moving on to our second timed item. This is a public hearing on consideration of a proposed major use permit, UP 20-90, for commercial cannabis cultivation for a total of 51,500 square feet of mixed light canopy area and mitigated negative declaration based on initial study IS 20-109. Applicant is Cresta Properties, LLC. Project location 6267 Kelsey Creek Drive and 6245 Gold Dust Drive, located in Kelseyville. APNs 007-013-23 and 007-013-22. Good morning,
Thank you.
Byron.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. This is, again, use permit 20-90 and initial study 20-109. Is located at Kelsey Creek, 6267 Kelsey Creek Drive and 6245 Gold Dust Drive. This permit is for a total of 51,500 square feet of mixed light canopy in automated greenhouses. The project was originally located in the northern parcel. Due to public concern, it was relocated to the southern parcel. Based on the last time you saw this project, I wanted to make some clarifications up front with regard to the project description. So the project description is 6 greenhouses with that 51,500 square feet. There's some confusion over greenhouses versus licenses. Based on the square footage, 5 licenses are going to be required to cultivate that much cannabis. But they do exist in 6 fully enclosed greenhouses. There's no outdoor cannabis.
Byron, could I interrupt right there?
Yeah.
When I was reviewing the initial study, it didn't seem to track the staff report at all in terms of numbers of greenhouses and that kind of thing. So I didn't know if that was even a relevant IS because of the differences.
I will clarify that further, but the initial study was it covered the entire property. The footprint shrunk. So therefore, we did go back and review the initial study and felt that all the impacts were still mitigated even though the project shifted location. The cultural study was for the whole property, the biological study was for the whole property, and the footprint has shrunk. So it's, staff's recommendation that the initial study is.
Thanks.
Power is supplied by PG&E, and generators will not be used unless there's an emergency in compliance with local regulations. The site borders Kelsey Creek Drive, not Kelsey Creek. The site is accessed, though, however, from Gold Dust Drive. The original staff report referred to the Middletown area plan that was in there. The site location falls under the Kelseyville area plan. The findings in the staff report do reflect the Kelseyville area plan, but it was just the Middletown was referenced there. The previous staff report you had incorrectly referenced Dr. Brock Zoller as the author of the hydrology report. Dr. Zoller is a co-author of the report Vineyard Water Use in Lake County, California, published by the UC Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources, which is often referenced in these applications. The report was submitted by the applicant as part of their water analysis and provided to the commission on May 12th, 2022, but then not provided to the commission on October 13th. The applicant submitted an additional hydrology report from Chico Environmental. That was the hydrology report for the project, not Dr. Zoller's report. This was attached to the staff report to the Planning Commission that should have been referenced as the hydrology analysis in the staff report, and that's been corrected now.
Byron, I'm sorry, could I interrupt again? In the staff report, it makes the point that there's going to be an actual mild increase in water use, implying that it's using more water than wine grapes would. But again, in the initial study, it doesn't say that the water use will increase.
That's because the initial study was incorrect. The vineyard itself is very old, so I think it was originally dry farmed. So I think we had a discussion about this.
I think so, and yes, there is an increase in water use.
Okay, it just, the IS doesn't say that. Page 40.
Yeah, the initial study, do you guys remember we visited this and there were so many inconsistencies that I believe Director Turner pulled it back and said, let's
Clean it up.
clean it, yeah.
Right, so the staff report is considered clean versus what I read in the IS?
Correct. That's my interpretation, yeah.
Right.
There was some concern over hazardous materials. Everything is kept indoors. There's not a concern about running off-site because all the growing is indoors. You know, again, the original project was all outdoors, so you had different issues with pesticide use. And then there was concern over potential expansion of the project. They can't expand until they come back to the Planning Commission. So I wanted to clarify those items up front before we get too deep into the project. So again, the property is zoned agricultural. It is in the scenic, agricultural and scenic combining. The general plan is agriculture. It's in the Kelseyville area plan. It's outside the nearest community growth boundary. The parcels are zoned rural residential and ag preserve in the area. Got a vicinity map for you showing you the basic location in relation to Kelseyville, south of Kelseyville, and then the south, obviously south of the Clear Lake. Again, there's 51,500 square feet of greenhouse canopy. There is also additional immature 3,000 square feet of immature plants proposed for the site. Again, still inside the greenhouses, and those are not counted as canopy. That's a state regulations. There are 2 storage barns proposed on the site. There are 2 storage barns, not 4. There's another clarification. Your staff report refers to 4. It's actually 2. The site is served by existing well. There's an existing barn used for vineyard storage now. There's an access agreement with the existing with the neighboring parcel. 10 5,000 gallon water storage tanks is proposed for the site. The well produces 10 gallons per minute. Expected water use is 24,550 gallons a day.
Are you sure that's right?
You know, I'm not sure that's.
I think I saw the pump test saying 1,000 gallons per minute with it settling down at 350.
Yeah, no, you're right. That got cut off again.
That would not be adequate.
Back in 1978, I think, the 10 gallons per minute reference.
4 employees during cultivation season, up to 12 during peak harvest. Again, access is from Gold Dust Drive. It's in the Kelsey Creek front of Clear Lake watershed.
Was,
Yes,
can we go back to that slide?
What was that a picture of?
Do we know if that's part of this project?
No.
Because I'm pretty sure it's not.
Where is that?
I am not sure
It's pretty.
if that
Okay, I
picture
just wanted, I'm like,
is
oh,
related to this project.
okay,
I think that's the Valley Oaks, perhaps.
maybe.
So cultivation operations occur in the greenhouses. There are secondary greenhouse frames in which the actual footprint of the flowering and nursery activity. So the greenhouses are actually larger than the canopy. The greenhouses are fully automated with controls that manage fans, lights, and interior curtain and blackout tarps, which slide over the interior greenhouse frame that prevents light from escaping when supplemental lighting is utilized outside of daytime hours. So by ordinance, light is required to not be able to escape from the greenhouses.
Can I interrupt one more time? Will these greenhouses be on a cement pad, or what kind of footing?
I will request if the applicant could address that after we finish. Review the Lake County General Plan, the Kelseyville Communities Area Plan, the Lake County Zoning Ordinance, and the state regulations. As you know, we don't find conflicts in the general plan. There are Kelseyville Communities Area Plan recommendations that this project does comply with. The zoning ordinance, Article 27, Article 5, and Article 34 have been reviewed and found it consistent with. There's no development planning to occur within any scenic highway, and with approved use permit, the project is compliant with the scenic corridor district and meets the established requirements of setbacks. This project, as we mentioned, had an initial study back in February of 2022, which circulated from February to March. We identified all impacts that can mitigate and reduce the less than significant. The CEQA initial study added mitigation measures with regard to aesthetics, air quality, cultural resources, hydrology and water quality, geological resources, noise, and tribal cultural resources and wildfire. The mitigation measures are in your staff report. Last time you saw this project, it was not, so we read through the mitigation measures. I'm not going to do that now, but if you have any questions about the mitigation measures, we can review them. The staff's recommendation still remains that the commission adopt the mitigated negative declaration, IS 20-109, and approve use permit 20-90 with conditions of approval. I did want to point out, again, with the initial study, that the initial study was circulated prior to the location of the site being shifted. We did review the entirety of the file to ensure that the analysis done was for the whole property, not just the greenhouse site, and determined that it was, including the biological reconnaissance and the cultural survey, and therefore recirculation of the initial study is not required. I did want to add there's an additional condition to add, that a certificate of compliance be required for I believe it's the upper parcel, to confirm the parcel legality, the creation legality.
Okay.
The legality of the parcel itself?
We were not able to trace it back to the instrument of creation. So we're requiring that to confirm, it certifies that was created in compliance with the MAP Act. So prior to any development on the property, we want them to file that certificate.
Interesting, thanks.
Okay. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments for staff or the applicant before we open it up to public comment?
I have a question, and I hate to sound like a dog that won't let go of a bone, but should I completely disregard the initial study in terms of what that says versus the staff report? And I said because there's a reference to noise in the IS, of course, and on one part of the IS it says there are no sensitive receptors, and in another part of the IS it says the only sensitive receptors in the study area are neighboring residences. So are there or aren't there sensitive receptors? And the reason I push the point is because on page 21 of the IS, the definition of sensitive receptors are children, chronically ill individuals, elderly, people who are more sensitive than the general population reside. So it's a certain lack of clarity that concerns me rather than,
Yeah, and I kind of have a question about that too, that kind of relates. I'm pretty familiar with the property, and I know that there are children, you can see play equipment a couple of feet from the edge of the property. So I'm wondering if the rule is that the construction, the greenhouses themselves have to be a certain number of feet, 1,000 feet, I believe it is, or is it the property itself?
I believe we have historically, or the county, I should say, has historically considered it the use, not the property line. We deal with some pretty big property, we have some pretty big properties. And as far as sensitive receptors, you're correct. The definition of sensitive receptor does not, how we would define sensitive receptors for purposes of CEQA, there isn't any school or playground. That's typically how we would define sensitive receptors.
I did see a school or a playground, I think it's 1,500 feet away, the EV Free Church. I think the limit is 1,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we will open it up for public comment at this time. If there is anyone wishing to speak on this item, now would be your time to approach the podium or raise your hand in the Zoom room. Okay, I don't see. Jim, just to confirm, is there any hands in the Zoom room?
I do not see any hands in the Zoom room. Oh, one just went up. Stephen Liu.
Okay, if we could give him permission to speak, and just be sure to confirm your first and last name.
Hello, this is Stephen Liu. I'm the consultant for the applicant. I just wanted to note that I'm available to answer any specific some questions about the project. But I have no comment to add at this point. But just to note, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. If you could clarify for Commissioner Field on the footings for the greenhouses, or you can, or also I believe the applicant is in chambers. If I think either one of you can answer the question.
The greenhouses will be my expertise.
Stephen, we're going to actually have the applicant come up, so just be patient just a moment. Good morning. Will you state your first and last name for us?
Good morning, Zaru Sabev.
Thank you.
Okay, the greenhouses, that was the old. Yeah, no, not the initial study. The screen was 35 by 100. That was the old project. The greenhouses are restated at the beginning. They're 60 by 120 and 90 by 120. There will be a footing around the greenhouse, no concrete floor. Okay, that's for the greenhouses. Expansion on the project, we cannot go because that's what is allowed by the county. So that's the maximum we can get, even in the future. So it's not going to be any expansion whatsoever. The 150 or 200 yards from the nearest house or border for the neighbors is what is the county requires. So the greenhouses, it's more than that. It's probably about I'm not sure it's 1,000, but it's more than 500-600 feet from the neighbors, where the kids are. And yeah, so go ahead if you have any questions.
Okay.
Sir, I do have a question for you. The green waste composting, the 30 by 30 area, is that open air or is that enclosed?
Yes, open air. It's going to have just the it's going to be a what do you call that?
Or I'm happy to explain.
It's going to have the roof, not the roof, but just the shade cloth.
Right.
So during the summer, it's too hot, so it's gonna be shady, but it's gonna be open area.
Sure. This has come up before in other applications because of concerns about odor. And other applicants have agreed to create more of an enclosed composting area so that there's less of a chance. I know you have scrubbers and filters in the greenhouses, but would you consider creating a more enclosed greenway space? It sounds like you're going to be processing a few tons of that a year.
Oh, not that much. We're aiming for quality, not quantity. That's why. But yeah, we can consider that if it's beneficial for us and for the neighbors. Yeah, we can do that.
I appreciate that. There was some concern expressed in public comments about.
Yeah, that's
odor.
not a problem. Yeah. The thing is that we want to chip it right away and dispose it through the around that, so it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen. I just wanted to let you know where we're at. We are on our second agenda item for Cresta Properties, and we have a public comment open now if that's something that you guys are here for. Is there any other questions or comments from the commission?
Yeah, I have some concerns and some comments. While I was reading the staff report, which first of all, it was an enormous improvement over the initial one that we reviewed. And I think that we can thank Director Turner for her excellent edits. I do not think we can use the term agriculture when we're talking about cannabis. My understanding from the Ag Commissioner is that this is not an agricultural activity. So I keep seeing that language in these reports, and it concerns me. Am I not understanding this, or?
Both the county and the state do regard cannabis as an agricultural product. So it is also an agricultural activity. It is not an agricultural commodity until it's decriminalized at the federal level.
Okay, so how does that affect the Right to Farm Act in our county?
Because it's not an agricultural commodity, it does not have the same entitlements from the right to farm that other agricultural commodities do enjoy.
Okay, so are there any other implications about this terminology? I mean, that's my main concern, is allowing cannabis the same rights that other agricultural activities enjoy.
Until they are deemed an agricultural commodity at the federal level, they will not be able to access the same entitlements for the right to farm ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much. I also have some concerns. So the scenic corridor is Kelsey Creek Drive, and that is measured by distance, not by a view shed. Is that correct? We have a comment from a neighbor who actually took photographs, and we all saw them in our packets, that show that, yes, this location is clearly visible from Kelsey Creek Drive. So maybe it's 600 feet. I mean, I didn't go out and measure it, but is that our criteria, is the actual distance from the road, or is it the view shed from?
It is my understanding that we had some discussions about that before I returned to the county, and the final determination was that it is a distance. So we do have these distances marked on our APN pages, and so we use those as reference in order to determine what is inside or outside the scenic corridor.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, I think that I'm really having trouble supporting this project for a couple reasons. One is that it's just outside all of these measurements that cumulatively, I just don't feel like this is a really good area for this kind of project. We have schools nearby, we have children in the area, we have an agricultural labor camp across the street. And in order to access, if it's being accessed through Stahaley and Gold Dust, which the applicant, I believe, said he is doing, he's going through I don't know exactly what the density is, but all those vehicles are going through a dense neighborhood. It's kind of a low-income, medium-income I don't know what you call it, blue collar neighborhood. And it changes significantly, in my opinion, the sense of the neighborhood. I don't feel like it's compatible. I'm not finding that it's compatible with the neighborhood. And we have all of these neighbors complaining. I think we had 6 or 7 talking about their concerns about not just the traffic, but the commercial aspect of it, water waste, proximity to childcare rehab facilities, proximity to a firearms dealer, high school daycare. The address is not posted. Someone commented about the nauseating stench, decline in neighboring property values, unfair to the working class to put this in their neighborhood, odors, and then criminal activity associated with the business. I mean, I'm not going to go through them all, but I just don't feel that I can't find that there's a compatible use with all these neighbor complaints. In addition to that, I want to mention that this is agricultural land that is historically valuable. I know that the vineyard there has been there for at least 100 years. I don't know if it goes pre-prohibition or not, but I just don't think this is the right kind of thing for this. I mean, it's very valuable agricultural land. So I hate to see it destroyed. And that's all my comments.
And I respect my comments, or my colleagues' comments and points of view, but with respect, we hear that litany of issues with virtually every application. And we have agreed at times that it is in fact a detriment to the neighborhood, but not always. But I mean, this is not the only application with such public comments.
Yeah, and I think this merits discussion. I see other areas where I have found that it is a good location. I don't want to use the term hinterlands, but less residential, farther from town, I think is more appropriate. And if we're really conducting any kind of planning activity here, I think that's what we should be doing, is putting these projects in areas where they're not in conflict with the neighborhood.
I respect your point of view, I certainly do.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll chime in a little bit. I know that the applicant and staff have, obviously heard the concerns of the neighbors and, have changed the placement, even going from outdoor to greenhouse to the upper parcel to the lower parcel or vice versa. So I do see both sides, and, our job is not easy. Commissioner Chavez, do you have anything to say? I see you taking some notes.
Yeah, I'm just, yeah, you guys can hear me. Just looking at the surrounding parcels and seeing vineyards around, and I understand the whole conversation about whether it's considered ag or not. I mean, the use of everything is enclosed, and everything surrounding this parcel, including this parcel itself, is vineyard. So I don't see it much as a big change to the use of what it is. And they are taking mitigations to conceal and even move the project to another location. So I'm just kind of the way that I'm trying to view this project.
Yeah, I'd like to just point out that, I mean, I really agree with that. I really respect the work that's been done on this, and it's brought me a lot closer. But still, this is one of those tough ones.
Commissioner Chair? Chair?
Yes.
There's another hand raised in the Zoom room.
Okay, public comment is still open. We can go ahead and unmute the person who'd like to speak in the Zoom room, and if they could just confirm their first and last name.
Hello, this is Erin McCarrick from Clear Lake.
Good morning, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I serve as the Vice President of the Lake County Cannabis Alliance, and I also serve on the Clear Lake Planning Commission. And I would like to speak in support of this project. As the commission has noted, there have been a lot of accommodations made to ensure that this project is compatible with the neighbors and compatible with some of the concerns that were raised at the last hearing. And I think that the applicant is somebody who's he's just a good person who is always open to working with the community, has, grown grapes and in the meantime, while this is getting processed, and will continue to be a good steward of the land and a good just citizen of Lake County. So I definitely support this project. Additionally, there's just as cannabis evolves in the state, and as Director Turner noted, that the state does consider it as ag right now, it's also gaining, it's just gaining a lot of notoriety for Lake County as well, in a good way, that we produce some really good quality product in that. And this is a great ambassador of the product and of the process. And then as a planning commissioner, I just, want to also support this because it is, in this correct zoning and within the correct requirements for this project. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for hearing this project again. And again, voicing my support for this project.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, and looks like we have someone in chambers that would like to speak. You're welcome to approach the podium. Please be sure to state your first and last name.
Brock Zoller from Kelseyville. I submitted some comments earlier, and basically those haven't changed, although it is encouraging really that the size of the greenhouses has been reduced, so that helps respond to some of these matters. But I still think that, the distances from schools and from the church and from where people live are not really adequate when you consider the downwind source of winds coming from the coast. So I think that needs to be considered, and it has not been considered. The other thing is this is an agricultural zoned area. This is not an agricultural product. And so we're asked to, accept whatever is brought in with these products. And anybody that raises grapes knows that the skins absorb compounds, and there are low volatile terpenes that emit from cannabis that can be problems getting into skins of grapes. There are actually wines that are sold on the basis of being cannabis infused, and so we know that it happens. But what if you don't want that to happen? So how are you really going to stop that? A winemaker might be out looking for places to sign contracts, and maybe we're not even going to consider a vineyard because there's a cannabis grow right next to it, and you're never going to hear that. And so these things exist, and I just question whether the county should be allowing that kind of thing to happen when this is zoned agricultural, and this is not an agricultural use. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Go ahead, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Zoller. It has come to my attention, I'm a farmer. In other counties, we are seeing, so what we're doing is we're giving a cannabis grower the right to grow cannabis. So when a neighboring viticulturalist vineyard owner applies a spray, and that spray drifts over to the cannabis and does damage to that crop, that cannabis grower has a right to go sue that neighboring vineyard owner for the damage. So this is happening in neighboring counties, and I think it's something we need to be aware of when we're considering these projects in these ag areas.
And is that the same for cannabis that's grown in greenhouses? Since this is not, it went from outdoor cultivation to enclosed now, so.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about the filtration systems. I do know that I have an indoor cannabis grow in my neighborhood, and I smell it every morning at 8 o'clock during the growing season. So I know that there is some exchange of air going on. I just think we need to be really careful when we're approving projects in these agricultural areas with, especially, I mean, this Kelseyville bench is what makes Lake County grapes famous. It's very valuable in the ag community, so.
Public comment is still open if there's anyone or any hands raised or anyone wishing to speak.
I have another person in the Zoom room.
Okay. If you could unmute them, please, and just please be sure to state your first and last name.
Hi, this is Steve Liu, the consultant for the applicant again. Sorry, it got cut off when I was looking for the files earlier. I just wanted to address some of the concerns that were expressed with respect to terpenes and the potential impact on the grapes. That's already been studied by California State Ag Extension, and this was published very early on, a few 2-3 years ago, but they did detailed studies with large-scale hemp cultivation in proximity to vineyards and crushed grapes, and compared the profiles of grapes that were grown, same varieties within proximity of cultivation of cannabis and further away, and they discussed there was no change. I want to point out that the skunky odor is from sulfuric compounds. It's not the terpenes. The terpenes are the more floral, fruity elements, similar to what you would see expressed in a fine wine. And sulfur is very commonly applied as a pesticide in the grape industry. So it's effectively, the concerns about odor and the skunky smell are the same products that are applied on a day-to-day basis in the cultivation of in the viticultural industry. Thank you.
I'd just like to add, I'm a former vineyard owner, and I've managed hundreds of acres of vineyards in this county. I know what sulfur smells like, and that's not what we're talking about, but thank you.
Mr. Liu?
Yes.
Could you describe the nature of the filtration systems in the greenhouse? Just so that I could better understand the level of sophistication, et cetera.
Well, generally there is a exhaust filtration because of odor mitigation methods, and that's generally carbon filters, or it can be like organic compound similar to basically a bulk. There's three methods. There's use of carbon filtration for exhaust, ozone for treating exhaust, and then proprietary formulations that are similar to a Febreze. It's like an odor neutralizing compound. That's generally used to treat the exhaust. For intake, it's generally open intake. However, similar methods can be used to treat the intake air if there's the concern for cross-contamination of applied pesticides. The pretty limited, overlap on what would be applied. This was particularly, no pesticides have been applied on this particular site as part of the viticultural operation. So we didn't really see any specific concerns with, application of pesticides that would impact the cannabis cultivation, but filtration methods can be implemented on intake air as well if it becomes an issue. And I think that would be the first approach that would be taken if it became an issue. And there's varying levels of contamination that can be experienced. The major concern for the longest period of time was when you extract the trim or some of the flour into concentrates. That's when you're concentrating the chemicals to a level where it becomes an issue. Generally, the flour is fine unless it's directly, hit with an application, which given the setbacks aren't a concern. And with the way the industry has trended, large-scale outdoor cultivation, generating lots of biomass and lots of material for extract has flooded the market. That's not what's being produced here. Right now, I believe the market value for biomass is in the range of $5 to $10 a pound, not including all the taxes. And whereas before, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that material was going for $100 to $200 a pound. So I think the concerns with respect to overspray and contamination were a concern a few years ago, and that might be the case law that is being referred to. But at this point, the material is not that valuable. It's really not. The biomass material that would be extracted, the waste byproduct that would secure a $100, $200 market value a few years back is worth $5 or less. And so I just want to give context to that specific concern about cross-contamination, because that's what it really would impact when you're concentrating that, a product that would have, 10%, 20% THC into a product that contains 80% to like 99% THC. That's where you're seeing that particular issue. And there's plenty of outdoor biomass grown around the state. That's not what's being produced here. That's not what the product that we're generating on this particular project, that's not what we're competing with. We're trying to grow a higher quality, higher value product. And it's a different kind of production, different kind of market that's being sought for this product than for concentrated oil.
With respect to the filtration system, which is what I had asked you about, you said a number of times that should it become a problem, you implied that there's more that could be done. Why wait until it might become a problem and there are complaints from the surrounding community? Why not just implement those additional measures up front?
Well, the odor mitigation measures are required, that those are being implemented. I was specifically
But you made distinctions about intake and
intake air
output.
treatment
Right.
to protect the crop. And, why it's a question of undertaking that expense when it may not be necessary. I understand it could be a concern if it does affect the quality of the extract, but if this material is what I was trying to note, is not really being grown for extract. It's being grown for flower, it's not being concentrated, and so you have the sensitivity to overspray is much reduced because you're not concentrating it. And so it may not be an issue at all. It most likely is not an issue.
Okay, but I thank you for your comment. But also, I believe Commissioner Hess had mentioned for the compost and the waste to be enclosed because, that will definitely produce some type of odor. And I'm in agreement with if there's anything that we can do, not to wait until there's a problem to address it. Thank you. And just to, kind of get ahead of it. Definitely would like to see an enclosed compost area with the proper ventilation, whether it's for the, whatever waste product as far as the trim and whatever else that he's not using be put into an enclosed area.
And that's fine. It could be stored in the barns and then hauled off once the correct amount of material has been generated to a green waste facility. So I don't think that's a concern at all to implement that as mitigation.
Okay, also it was just noted as well that there is a compost area on site. So that actual area on site, we would like to see that enclosed with ventilation as well, just to stay ahead of the smell.
Correct, and what I was noting is that there are also the odor mitigated barns, and instead of increasing the site footprint infrastructure, the applicant may if the compost area is going to be built, it will be outside of the barns, and it will be odor mitigated then, based on the request of the commission. But as an alternative, the applicant may store material within the odor mitigated barns that are already part of the site and project, and just massage the operations a little bit, just to reduce the amount of infrastructure that would be needed, if that is acceptable.
Okay, thank you for that. Any public comment is still open at this time, so you're welcome to come on up. Is there any hands in the Zoom room, Jim, before I take this comment in chambers?
I don't show any right now.
Okay.
Okay, Zaru Sabef again. I don't know, Stevie didn't catch the, the question somehow. So it's already a carbon filters. They'll be installed from the beginning on the greenhouses and on the two barns, which is a drying room and all that stuff. So they're already going to be, we're not going to wait until it starts smelling and then start installing that stuff. So they're already going to be installed. Also, we proposed that we're going to put some, a lot of flowers like lilac, like all those flowers around the area. Plus, they look better and they also help with the odor. I just want to say that it's, Kelseyville Bench is it's a unique place, right? I like it too. But we have problems selling grapes. And you know better than me why we have that problem. So I have a problem. I have been approached from Foley family and Kendall Jackson. They're looking for replanting contract for the grapes. So the grapes and cannabis, it's not a problem with that. Probably the bigger parcel will be replanted with different kind of grapes. So I just want to mention that the big companies, they don't have problem with that, to have a cannabis next to the grapes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, there is a hand up in the Zoom room.
Okay, we're going to take this gentleman in chambers first, and then we will go ahead and I'll remember to come back to the Zoom room. Thank you, Jim. Good morning. If you could just state your first.
I apologize for being late. And of course, you may remember, I'm an immediate neighbor to the property, and my concerns, of course.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Can you just state your first and last name for the record?
Okay. My name is Michael Wiley, and
Thank you.
I reside in Kelseyville on Kelsey Creek Drive, right adjacent to the property. The owner has put up new fencing and stuff that would discourage trespassing and animals from gaining access to his property. But the product has a reputation of inviting criminal element to the area because they expect to have buckets full of cash stored on his property because of the nature of the crop. And the rumors and history on the media of growers and people that deal in the product having large sums of money stored on their property because of the reluctance of banks and other legitimate business people from accepting their large large amounts of cash. And so I was wondering if the county has considered any additional patrols in the area to ensure that or discourage any of the home invasion type activity being invited into the neighborhood because of these large greenhouses. And whether the owner has anything stored that the thief might get is irrelevant. If they come looking and they don't find what they want, they take whatever they can get. And that's what's happened in other areas. And people that I have talked to in Potter Valley and other places that, where the crop is being grown, they're concerned daily about security for their own property because their properties can be mistaken for a grower. And of course, I still have all the concerns about water usage and other things because of my property's proximity to the grower. So I just wonder if anybody has thought about the possibility of the negative impact that this crop sometimes brings to the area. And that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you for your comment. Jim, is there still a hand raised in the Zoom room?
There's two.
Okay.
Actually, three now.
If there's anybody who hasn't spoken in the Zoom room, Jim, if we could possibly select that person first.
Jennifer Smith.
Okay. Jennifer, we're going to unmute you and give you an opportunity to speak. If you could just confirm your first and last name.
Yes, Jennifer Smith.
Good morning. We can hear you.
Good morning. So I have a few comments, and granted, some of them are very repetitive that you will always hear me say. You know, part of this, the point of this meeting today is the path to licensure, right? And that is why we have regulations. It is a path to licensure. And while I appreciate everybody's concern, once again, there's a lot of hyperbole. You know, we are not seeing, we're not seeing theft or robberies or home invasions on legally licensed farms. And I think that that has been in the newspapers. Our law enforcement has stated as such, not to quote any of our law enforcement officials. I'm really upset by the ag against ag that seems to be created, especially in these meetings. Agriculture as a whole is under attack. We are a county that is based on agriculture. The majority of our budget, of our revenue in the county comes from agriculture. We really need to stop the ag versus ag. We are an agricultural product at the state level. We are an agricultural product designated in this county. We should not be protecting illegal spray overdrift. We should be working with farmers to prevent overdrift, spray drift. There are rules in place for spray overdrift, and nobody's going to advocate for one farmer to be suing another, but let's all have best practices and keep that in mind. I own 50 acres of grapes, and within my grapes, I have 6 acres of cannabis. There is no terpene taint from the cannabis into the grapes. It's been studied at length. My project is
Jennifer, you are breaking up a little bit. We lost you, I think. I'm not sure if you can hear us, but I'll give you a few seconds to hopefully reconnect. And if not, we will,
keep emotions out of it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, I will, Commissioner Fields has something to add.
I just want to thank Jennifer. I couldn't agree with you more about spray drift. I'm an organic farmer, and I use a fertilizer that has a very offensive odor. It comes directly from an organic chicken farm, and it smells really bad. And I do everything I can to get it tilled into the soil and irrigated immediately when I receive it. I'm very sensitive to this issue, and I thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, Jim, can we move on to the next hand in the Zoom room?
It is Richard Durham.
Okay. Richard, we're going to unmute you and give you an opportunity to speak.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. My name is Richard Durham. I'm a realtor and a cannabis grower also. And I'd like to just reiterate real quickly that, the water usage inside light deprivation greenhouses is highly reduced. So when people are worried about water consumption, it's probably the most economical way, water usage-wise, to grow. Also, on the fear of robbery, cannabis has been medicinally here since in the 2000s, and then recreationally in the last 4 or 5 years, and there has been no major crime spike. In fact, most cannabis growers have their properties. In fact, in Lake County, all marijuana growers have to have their properties, under surveillance systems, and criminals know that once they have a picture of you, you're done. So why even go? So we haven't seen any of those concerns spike, and the county has lost a lot of growers because of the price and the value of cannabis, and the light deprivation gardens are still selling and will be here and will be a big part of the future of Lake County. So, and then the last thing, the tainting, the terp crossing into the grapes. On Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors okayed a 22-acre grow in the middle of a 140-acre vineyard. So I'm sure that the vintner did not want to taint his grapes and would not have allowed that to happen. So I just recommend that we pass this and we can move forward to brighter days. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Mr. Durham. I do not have any crime data, but I've been a farmer in Lake County since 1990, and I have never heard of anybody having a vehicle stolen from their driveway. And this year, I know 3 people in the Big Valley area who have had their pickup trucks stolen from their properties. So yes, on the ground, we are seeing an increase in crime. Having said that, I'm not against cannabis. I think that as an agricultural community, we need to diversify. I'm not against cannabis. I feel that we need to be very careful where we put it. And I think that we need to engage in some planning and think about where it can be located best. That's all. Thank you.
Is there a remaining hand in the Zoom room, Jim?
I do not have any more hands in the Zoom room.
Okay. I'll take one last gander around chambers. I don't see anyone wishing to speak.
Madam Chair, if I could request a break, we are confirming the permitted status of the structures that are on the northern parcel. It was something that I questioned in my edits, but I lost track of it. So if we could just take a 10-minute break, I'd like to get that settled so that if the commission decides to make the findings that there are no code violations on the parcel, we can go ahead with that. But I just need to get that one last point settled.
Okay. I will officially close public comment, and we will take a brief break. I'm showing a time of 10:14. We will resume at 10:25. Okay, we are going to go ahead and bring it back. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We just needed a little bit of time to give staff some extra time to confirm a few things. Did anybody want to elaborate on the break and what we were just?
Thank you for that time. We are still working on confirming a permitted status for the structures that are on the northern parcel, the one ending in 23. Staff would request that we continue this item to the next meeting, which would be January 12th.
Okay.
So that we can make sure that those are either permitted or ag exempt, in which case then if the commission just wanted, they could approve the findings, that there are no current violations on the parcel.
Excellent. So there will be no further discussion. Can the applicant speak?
It's up to the chair.
You're welcome to approach the podium, but we are going to move forward with a continuance, so.
Sure, I just want to.
Okay.
I just want to say that if you have a concern, Zarosabov, if you have a concern about the northern parcel, what about the southern parcel? We can approve 22,000, actually 29.5, and keep moving to the, to the further resolving that issue, right? Because the southern parcel is fine, and you can go 29,500 for a mixed light, right? And we can keep continuing that. That is my proposal.
What is the size of the southern parcel?
38 something, 38 acres and.
I do appreciate the suggestion. However, since both parcels are recorded or are mentioned in the staff report and the initial study as the project parcels, in order to separate them wouldn't be as easy as just saying we separate them.
Sir, I think it's unfortunate that we are in a position of having to continue. It's kind of an 11th hour revelation for the commissioners as well. Mm-hmm. But you'll be on the docket in our first meeting in January, and you've been patient, the community has been patient, and we really can't move forward without being able to make all of those critical findings.
All right,
Thank you. So we have a little bit of direction from Director Turner. I do need a formal motion to go ahead and continue this to January 12th.
I move that the Planning Commission continue this agenda item to our January 12, 2023 meeting.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor for the continuance?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
One last detail, if we could schedule that for 9:05 so that it's time and date specific and we don't have to notice again, that would be great. Thanks. Sorry.
Thank you. Let's please note that we would, as amended, we would like it for January 12th at a timed item of 9:05. So again, I appreciate the applicant's patience and staff going through this. And we will move on to our next item. Our next item on the agenda is a public hearing for consideration of proposed general plan conformity, GPC 22-09 for Bartlett Springs Bridge replacement and mitigated negative declaration based on initial study IS 22-26. The applicant is the County of Lake Public Works Department. Project location is the Quad Bartlett Springs T15N R08W Section 2 UTM Zone 10. And I believe these are the coordinates 39-181913 and -122.1/718,796. And that is, Laura, you're going to be presenting?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thank you. This is a project for a general plan conformity 2209 and initial study 2226 for a bridge replacement. The applicant is Lake County Public Works Department. Funding for the project comes from the Federal Highway Administration through the Federal Highway Bridge Program. As a responsible agency, Caltrans is responsible for implementing funding and project approvals. As shown on the maps, the site is located approximately 13.7 miles northeast of State Highway 20 in the Bartlett Springs Quad, Township 15 North, Range 08 West, Section 2, and UTM Zone 10. The site is marked with the red star. This diagram shows the proposed project, the proposed bridge sections, including the driven piles, spread footing, and the existing abutment, which will remain all in the upper left-hand diagram. The bottom diagram shows the existing bridge to be removed. The diagram to the right shows the pre-stressed concrete slab. This map shows the proposed bridge sections, including the driven piles. This map shows the areas of effects, or in this case, the impacts. The area shown in dark orange is the lower water crossing, which would be used during construction. The staging area is shown in gray, while the white shaded area is optional to be used for a concrete batch plant. The red dashed line is where the existing buried fiber optic cable is located. Bartlett Creek is a blue line stream which is tributary to the North Fork Cache Creek. The terrain is moderately steep and rugged with elevations from 1,400 to 4,800 feet. Surrounding lands are vacant with the nearest residence over 2 miles away. After completing the initial study, staff determined that the project would require a mitigated negative declaration, which was circulated for 30 days. And I would like to point out that our commissioners have a handout. This is in regards to a comment that we received on December 9th from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Addressing bats, mitigation for bats at the bridge project. So mitigation will be added for that, and the mitigation is included in the white sheet as attachment 1. Mitigation measures for the project include 6 for air quality, 6 mitigation measures, 13 for biological resources. Oops, let me go ahead here. And 1 for cultural resources, and 1 for geology and soils, and 1 for tribal cultural resources. We did have tribal consultation, and that ended on the same day that it occurred with no concerns from the tribes at that time. This slide here is showing the yellow highlighted that would be revised to the staff report language. Same here, highlighted yellow are the changes to be made. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the actions listed in A. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the actions listed here in B. And staff recommends that the Planning Commission make the following findings. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
I just have one question. I'm very familiar with this bridge, and I'm thrilled to see this. But my question is anything planned to stop access at that low water crossing? I know people just drive through there, and it kind of makes a mess of the riparian area.
I couldn't really hear your question. Are
Oh.
people going to be using the low water crossing during
Yeah,
construction?
is there anything planned to be done to discourage people from bypassing the bridge once the bridge is repaired?
No, they'll be directed to use the low water crossing as construction's occurring.
But
So that's
afterward?
existing.
Yeah, but so afterward, is there anything that can be done to block that so that people stop driving in the creek? That would be my concern.
Yeah, I don't know, this is Public Works project, but I know this site, I went out on a site visit here, and it's way out, way out in the mountains, so there's not a lot of traffic here to speak.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with it. I
Yeah.
think the report said 127
Yeah,
vehicles per day.
exactly.
Yeah. but
So
it's-
our project today is limited to the general plan conformity report, just on the bridge report, project itself, but I am more than happy to convey the concerns of the planning commission up to the public works director, because off-road driving does damage riparian areas, and water resources is very well aware of that too.
Awesome. Thank you, Director Turner.
Okay, any questions from any of the other commissioners for staff before we open it up for public comment? No? Okay, we will officially open this up for public comment. Jim, is there anyone in the Zoom room wishing to speak on this item?
I do not have any hands in the Zoom room.
Okay, thank you. Chambers is empty. So we will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion or action. Go ahead.
I move that the Planning Commission find that the general plan conformity GPC 22-09 for the Bartlett Springs Road at Bartlett Creek Bridge Replacement Project applied for by the Lake County Department of Public Works on property located on county-maintained right-of-way on Bartlett Springs Road, Lucerne, California, adjacent to APN 004-037-15 will not have a significant effect on the environment as a mitigated negative declaration shall be adopted with the findings listed in the staff report dated December 15th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I further move that the Planning Commission find that the general plan conformity GPC 2209 for Bartlett Springs Road at Bartlett Creek Bridge Replacement Project applied for by the Lake County Department of Public Works on property located on a county-maintained right-of-way on Bartlett Springs Road, Lucerne, California, adjacent to APN 004-037-15, conforms to the Lake County General Plan with the findings listed in the staff report dated December 15th, 2022.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7-calendar-day appeal period. If there's a disagreement with the Planning Commission's recommendation, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination. Our next item is a public hearing for consideration of proposed general plan conformity, GPC 22-10, and mitigated negative declaration based on IS initial study 22-27 for North Fork Cache Creek Bridge replacement. Applicant is County of Lake Public Works Department. Project location Quad, Benmore Canyon, T14N, R07W, Section 12, UTM, Zone 10. Coordinates 39.069939 and negative 122.584140. And Ms. Laura is doing this report as well.
Or Sam, sorry. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is another bridge project for General Plan Conformity GPC 2210, an initial study IS 2227. The applicant is Lake County Public Works Department. Funding for the project also comes from the Federal Highway Administration through the Federal Highway Bridge Program. As a responsible agency, Caltrans is responsible for implementing funding of the project and approvals. As shown on the maps, the site is located approximately 5.4 miles northeast of State Route 20 in the Benmore Canyon Quad, in Township 14 North and Range 07 West in Section 12. In UTM Zone 10, the site is marked with the red star. The diagram shows the existing bridge to be removed and the proposed bridge to be constructed. In the diagram bottom left, the different span alternatives are shown in the right-hand diagrams. This map shows the project impact area, which is outlined with a dashed orange line. The purple line includes the proposed bridge and roadway, while the staging areas are shown in yellow and the existing bridge is shown in blue. The North Fork Cache Creek is a blue line stream that flows northeast approximately 8.6 miles river miles to its confluence with the main channel of Cache Creek. Cache Creek continues 25 miles to Capay Valley, reaching the Sacramento Valley near the town of Esparto, approximately 50 river miles northeast of the project area. The terrain is moderately steep and rugged, with elevations at the project site approximately 1,137 feet above mean sea level. Single-family residents are nearby. As required under California Code Section 65402, the project was found to be in conformance with the goals and policies found in Sections 6, 7, 11 of the Lake County General Plan, as well as with the Lake County Municipal Code. And again, you have a white sheet that I dropped off for you to look at that covers mitigation received as a result of a consultation that occurred December 13th with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. They were concerned that there was, even though the yellow-legged frog has not been found in this part of Lake County, and they were concerned that because it was found in another project or another bridge project approximately 4 miles away, that it could be also possibly at this site as well. So we've added mitigation for the yellow-legged frog to this project. Other mitigation measures for the project include 2 for air quality, 13 for biological, 13 for cultural, 5 for hazards and hazardous materials, 10 for hydrology and water quality, 2 for noise, 2 for public services, and 2 for the tribal cultural resources. We did have consultation with the tribal government, and there is a monitoring plan in place with the county for this project. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the actions listed in A, again, that are highlighted in yellow here. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission make the following findings. And this recommendation continued. Oops, this is the following findings, excuse me. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Laura. Any questions for staff from the commission? Okay. There's no one. We'll all go ahead and officially open up public comment. I have no one in chambers. Jim, is there any hands raised in the Zoom room?
I do not have any hands in the Zoom room.
Thank you. We will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion or action, or both.
I have no comments, Madam Chair.
Okay. Where are we
I just have a quick question. I really appreciate the Bio 13 about the western pond turtle as well, but will the old bridge be destroyed as part of this project? Do you know?
I think that it will, and so they have different reports, not covered in here, but in the initial study on how they'll handle hazardous materials and that sort of thing, and disposal of the bridge. They've done many studies for the removal of the bridge.
It's just kind of a cool old bridge. I was just kind of curious. Thanks.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Chavez?
Just a quick question.
Motion of the year.
Yeah. Will it be this sample one here, the one that was amended with CDFW? I move that the Planning Commission find that the General Plan of Conformity GP C22-10 for the Chalk Mountain Road over North Fork Cache Creek Bridge replacement project applied for by the Lake County Department of Public Works on property located on county maintained right-of-way on Chalk Mountain Road, Clear Lake Oaks, California, adjacent to APN 062-471-01, 0203, 062-481-03, and 05 is in conformance with all county regulations and will not have a significant effect on the environment, as an initial study and mitigated negative declaration shall be adopted with the findings listed in the staff report dated December 15th, 2020, and as approved by CDFW on December 13th, 2022, under California Code of Regulations, Title 14, Division 6, Chapter 3, Section 15074.1.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And the one down here is General Plan of Conformity Report.
Yes.
I move that the Planning Commission find that the General Plan Conformity, GPC 12-10, for the Chalk Mountain Road over North Fork Cache Creek Bridge Replacement Project applied for by the Lake County Development of Public Works on property located on county-maintained right-of-way and on county-maintained right-of-way on Chalk Mountain Road, Clear Lake Oaks, California, adjacent to the APN 062-471-01, 02, and 03, 062-481-03 and 05 is in conformity with the Lake County General Plan with the findings listed in the staff report dated December 15th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Please note that the applicant or any interested person is reminded that the zoning ordinance provides for a 7 calendar day appeal period. If there is a disagreement with the Planning Commission's recommendation, an appeal to the Board of Supervisors may be filed. The appropriate forms and applicable fee must be submitted prior to 5 p.m. on or before the 7th calendar day following the Commission's final determination.
Thanks, Laura.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Okay, moving on. Our next item is a public hearing for consideration of proposed parcel map PM 22-02 to divide a 34-acre lot into 4 residential parcels with 1 14-acre commercially zoned lot and mitigated negative declaration based on initial study IS 19-09. Applicant is Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians. Project location is 7130 Red Hills Road, Kelseyville. Parcel number 009-021-07. And I do believe, Director Turner, you're asking for a continuance?
Yes, please. Staff requests a continuance. The CEQA was circulated as an addendum to an existing initial study from a previous project. But after that was completed, upon further staff review, we decided that it actually couldn't be added to that project and would better stand alone as its own initial study. So staff did complete that initial study, and it is out for recirculation. Continuing this to January 12th will allow that full review period to conclude.
Okay, excellent.
Staff requests this be continued to January 12th at 9:15, please.
9:15.
So move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor for the continuance?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We will see you at January 12th, 2023 for a scheduled item for 9:15. Moving right along, next is a public hearing continued from July 14th, 2022, consideration of proposed tentative vesting parcel map PM-21-31 to divide a 43-acre lot into 3 lots and addendum IS 19-17 to the final environmental impact report. Applicant is Valley Oaks Land and Development Incorporated. Project location 18196 and 18426 Highway 29 Middletown. APN 014-260-51. That's the only parcel number listed. And Director Turner.
Thank you. Staff does request a continuance on this item. As the Planning Commission is probably well aware, Valley Oaks has a number of moving pieces and parts. Yeah. It's a complex project, and we determined after the posting or after noticing this project, it would be much better procedural-wise if we kept it connected to the modification of the subdivision map, which is currently underway. So staff does request that this be continued to a time and date uncertain so that we can wait until that other project is ready to come before you, and then we'll bring them both.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a continuance. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And to a date uncertain. Thank you. The floor is yours, Director Turner, for a department update.
Thank you. Just 2 things for you. We had a little glitch in processing your mileage reports because the auditor's office would prefer a wet signature due to staff sicknesses and days off. We don't have them ready for you yet. So what I was thinking is next week, maybe I can take the show on the road. I've got some open areas on Monday, and I'll just drive out and meet you guys wherever you are so we can get these wet signatures, because this is not supposed to be hard. This is, but I think that will clear the final obstacle to getting you the reimbursement that you deserve.
And to get it off of everyone else's plate.
And then the auditor's office doesn't have to worry about it anymore. And we're going to start, hopefully, a smooth process, just like it was years ago. Okay. So,
is there something to sign here today while we're all here? Or?
Unfortunately, we have to recreate. Well, hey, Jim, do we have all of those forms upstairs?
I don't have them prepared because I have to.
I'm wondering
the way the
if
computer is, I have to wipe out everything.
Yeah.
And create a new form each time.
But I'm wondering if we can just do a wet signature next to the not quite so wet signature and call it good. Could you please get those
forms are done.
Sarah?
I redid them all. They're ready for you to do your circulation.
Then if the commission wouldn't mind visiting us up on the 3rd floor, we will happily get those wet signatures for you. Though I was kind of looking forward to the road trip, but I'll save that
You
for
could
a
get
different
mileage
day.
for
Yeah. No, but this is more efficient, so this is great. Secondly, I know I keep promising you a department update. I'm going to ask staff to help me assimilate or synchronize that data so that it is something that is easy to report, because I keep sending out these emails saying, okay, send me what you're working on, and I get like pages of stuff that's like active when it's coming to you, and so far I haven't been able to quite synthesize that into an easily digestible report. But I haven't given up. My goal is to get you something awesome, maybe with pyrotechnics, January 12th.
Oh, cool.
So that's the goal. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Director Turner. Thank you, Jim, and Sam, and all the people that you don't see behind the scenes that make this possible. Jake, if you're out there. Happy holidays, and we will see you in the next year.
Thank you, Chairman Price.
Meeting adjourned. Okay.
Well.